first, as Kayla said, the presumption is that it's going to happen after the close. So that will allow people to rethink and mute. If you're going to have to instantly react, here's the way the form chart goes. If they call for a vote early, that means they think they've got the votes, and that's why you'll see a little bit of an anticipation rally going into it. If they decide to postpone and not vote either tonight or whatever, there'll be a mild sell-off because people say the votes still remain questionable. If they vote and have it voted down, there will be a more substantial sell-off. And certainly if it votes and passes, there'll be a rally. So that's the way the form chart sits down here.
Is it obvious to state the reason we're hugging the flat line with major averages is because they're waiting to see what happens with this?
Oh, absolutely. And just as yesterday afternoon, people were diverted by what happened in London and the lack of details there, which is kind of amazing. We're used to the American press where the name of the perpetrator comes out instantly, etc. So they were diverted then. They remain slightly diverted now. That still continues to unwind, and obviously diverted by what's happening in Washington.
You know, Art, if you look back to previous dates when basically all traders were focused in on a given known event, whether it was the inauguration, whether it was the president's speech to Congress, even the Fed meeting, you know, the market has just kind of sat back and waited and kind of wait for that moment to pass, and then it went on to, in those cases, pop or put up a little upside. In this case, though, we're coming off this position where you're down 1% in a day for the first time in a while. You've wobbled a little bit. So what do you think the resumption of the trend is going to look like, assuming we get through this?
Well, I think you're right. And one of the reasons, as we went into the election, through the election, et cetera, they discovered with this particular president, surprises bring surprises. So, and they bring big reactions. So people aren't willing to make that kind of bet. Now, where do I think we go from here? It all depends if they get it through. I mean, the president is one of the least pointed ideologues we've had. He wants to make a deal. Okay, cancel that point. Yeah, I wouldn't have said that before, but I say it to you now. So they think they're going to move. I would think you're looking at a 65% chance of a quote unquote positive outcome from this.
Certainly, probably his LBJ moment, or the first of those. Back to the London attack yesterday, we didn't see a lot of market movement in response to it. Maybe a suggestion that we're growing, sadly, inured to these kind of things. But I wonder if there's a second-order consequence to watch, which is I wait to see what the polls in France say. If you see more attacks like this, does that help Marine Le Pen? There's a guy at Goldman Sachs who's put out a note who says it's not his base case scenario that she wins, but he sees a higher path to that probability than most of the market is pricing in at this point. Is that something that maybe gets affected by what we saw in London yesterday?
Yeah, no, it certainly can. And again, God forbid, it depends if there were a follow-up. You know, if something happens on the continent, if something else goes by. So traders certainly will be watching that and playing into it, how it affects the French election. But again, we need some details. So far, this looks like a one-off event, not necessarily a lone wolf. They did arrest 7 other people, but it doesn't look like a huge conspiracy yet. We'll watch to see where that is.